How would you like to earn more money while taking more time off? It seems a bit fanciful. It seems like something that's not really obtainable. In the world of entrepreneurship, so many of us see the opposite. We actually put in more, longer, harder hours just to achieve meager results in the end. That's why I'm super excited to have David Pearce with us today. He's going to dive into actually teaching us how to make this a reality, to earn more money while taking more time off. David Pearce has built a successful dentistry business, sold that off, and has now achieved financial and time freedom. He's authored 2 books and now helps people like you and me to achieve the success that we've dreamed of. David, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Mike, my pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, I want to dive right into it. David, how do you help people actually earn more money while taking more time off?
Sure. Well, if you recall that there's this thought that Atlas said, the right length lever, you can move the globe. So it's really about leverage. So leverage can be time, leverage can be money, leverage can be any asset you have, including yourself or your team. So that would be the first thing, is leverage what you have. And then probably the second thing is a mind shift to thinking that revenue has nothing to do with time. It has to do with the actual volume per unit of time. So the typical thing is, if I want to make more money, I'm going to work more hours. But then at the same point in time, if you said, well, but if you could double your pay, you could earn twice as much in the same number of hours, or you could earn the same amount in half the number of hours. Simple concepts. We all can appreciate those. So then applying those to your business really can be in many different directions. But probably the first thing, so as a dentist, we have kind of set hours. In a sense, I'll say what would appear to be profitability hours, work in the business, not on the business, but in the business. When are you open? 8 to 5, this days a week. So if you look at that and you said, the typical focus I've seen on people is, well, I'll be open, 5 days a week. And then if you look at capacity of that whole thing and say, well, so every single minute of that time is filled. There's no open time. And if there was, then I would say, well, then why are you in the office? Just close it. You don't need to sit around and stare at each other. So automatically you might pick up time right there, especially new businesses. I find that new businesses oftentimes are looking to say, well, I have the capacity for 2 days a week to see people. Okay, so open 2.5 days. Cram them all into 2 days, not 5. Be really productive in those and focus on production per hour, not production per week or per month or per cycle. So that's one. 2 certainly would be, I think that especially for small entrepreneurs, we start off as the business is oftentimes us, or it's us and one other person. And then at some point it should grow. So now it's 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. But many times the entrepreneur is still doing things that they always had to do, and they're still doing them themselves. Sometimes they like doing them, sometimes not. Sometimes they're good at it, sometimes not, but they keep doing those. And that's one of the easiest, quickest places to apply leverage is start trusting at one, empowering, teaching your team, coaching them how to do those things, and then let them grow into leadership positions within their own space so that they are running those, freeing you up to do more things. So then maybe the other concept outside of leverage that I would add to that, other than thinking dollars per hour, dollars per unit of time, not total dollars, would be the idea of like, how do we intentionally create more dollars per hour? And that to me goes more conceptually, which is try to create a niche of something. A niche could be anything. Like you could any business, especially in the United States, editorial comment there. In the United States, like to have amazing customer service, like that's all it takes to have an amazing business. That customer service in the U.S. is so poor. You don't even have to be amazing to have people grab people's attention. So be considerate, be all the things that go into amazing customer service. Think outside that box with your team. That could be your niche, and you could have just a regular old product. You just deliver it in an amazing way so that people just love you, and bundle your services together. So somebody, every consumer loves to be, I shouldn't say this, many consumers in your niche, you'll find people who love what you're specializing in, So there's always going to be Four Seasons, and there's always going to be Motel 6. Some people are specializing in saving every dollar they can on a hotel experience, and other people are willing to spend more money for that hotel experience. So you'll always find people on all ends of the spectrum. So develop a niche where you can be special, you can stand out, because mediocrity is dead. You're just then competing on price, which is a dead end solution. Create the niche, and then bundle as many services as you possibly can, because most consumers, unless they're lonely and they just like to get out, really rather go to one place and get as much stuff as they possibly can, as fast as they possibly can. And I'm a dentist, right? So it's easy to find people that don't want to go to a dentist. So anything I can do to make it easier for somebody to get whatever the dentistry does for them in less time, get more of it in less time, they're all about sign me up. Like that just makes sense to most people. And I say, as a rule, if you look at the growth of, say, Amazon, online shopping, there has to be something said for people wanting to get more faster, get more things done quicker, which frees up their time to do what they want to do. I don't have to go to the store to try on different clothes. I can go online. I can buy 17 shirts that I think I like and return 15 of the 17. Quicker, faster for me. Bundle it all together.
I love that. I love those concepts. I mean, the core of it is quite simple.
Yeah.
It's just how much time you're putting in multiplied by the leverage or the amount of production per the time that you have. And the key there is to maximize on that leverage.
Right.
But I think for new entrepreneurs, and maybe not even new, it's like all entrepreneurs, so many of us feel like we're just stuck in the weeds. Like we've just got to get this next thing done. How do we even build the time to start thinking about ways to build leverage?
Well, so one question, Mike, as you picture that scenario, is there just the entrepreneur, or do they have other folks that either are, I'll say volunteer in the sense that volunteer, but they are committed to showing up and doing the work, or are there employees, paid employees in the scenario you just described?
Let's say that the entrepreneur is just starting out and it's just them.
Sure. Then I would say you may have to keep the same number of hours you're doing. Maybe don't increase your hours. I'm all for, get balance in your life. You don't want to pay Peter to have Paul run away with your life and, all this stuff. So this lifestyle has a huge amount to do with success. Success should never be defined by money alone. That's just one of the measures of success. So again, for me, it would be bundling would be, so what other services could I add to the mix all by myself, to my mix, either by partnering with other folks who might be like, we can collaborate on a service. So that when people come to me, I can easily offer you their services to you, either in my facility. They come one day a week or a period a week and they provide that service, or you go see them, but I'm the connective person. So add more services to your mix so that when people do start spending time with just you, can't leverage any employees, but they spend time with you. So you're still the salesperson, right? Nothing happens without a sale. So if you're the sole person, then you're responsible for pretty much all sales. And some sales may be very transactional. For instance, if I went to buy a Ford 150 red, blah, 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 it's the same vehicle no matter where I go. As opposed to if I go to get a haircut, it's not the same haircut everywhere I go. It's very different. So the service as versus the actual commodity. But either way, you can start adding more of those things to it as yourself, just by yourself. And by doing so, you create more value in everything you are, and you can charge according to that value, therefore increasing the amount of revenue you're getting just every single time you work with a person. One, and then two, that the best dollars you're ever going to spend on your business will be on you. Make you a better version of you. So if you looked at that and you said, so I'm all by myself. So where do you picture this vision? What's the noble purpose of your business? Like if you went out of business, something would be missing from the world. And you really need to think about that enough so you can identify, what is that thing? And then two, what do you stand for? What are your cultures? Who am I? What kind of things do we allow and not allow? Where do we draw lines in the sand on all different things? So at the very least, you should have a very clear definition of those things in your mind. So at some point, as you're looking at that, I say, well, I'm just a struggling small business, and that's the way I see myself. So, the world would say what you think about, you get more of. So you're gonna have more of a small, struggling business all by yourself, as opposed to here's my vision, here's what I see, here's what I need, here's what the world needs, and here's how I look at it. Here's where it's going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Granted, it's going to go one step at a time, but here's where it needs to be in 5 years. Here's where it needs to be in 3 years, then 1 year, and then in 90 days. And here's what I need to do this week. And then tomorrow morning, here's the 3 things, most important 3 things that are going to move me towards that next goal, all by myself. And at some point, it'll become obvious revenue otherwise that I can add somebody. Perfect. Now we got to get that person very much on board with. Here's our noble purpose, bigger than you and me. Here's what we stand for. Here's what we do, and here's what we don't do. If you don't like those, don't work here because you're not going to like it here. We adhere to these principles and these rules. And then from there, it can go into like, what's your job? What's my job? What do I need to drop as the owner because I've always done it, but I shouldn't be doing it anymore? What are all these different positions? And initially, you should really have an organizational as you look. Right, what's the 5-year business look like? What's that organizational chart, organizational board, accountability chart? What do you want to call it? You got the visionary, you have the COO, you have all these people. Like, make that chart. And guess what? Your name's going to be every single one of them. You're sales, you're marketing, you're repair, you're this, you're that. Like, you're the deal. That's it. Great. But at some point in time, it's going to make sense. No, take your name out and put somebody else's name in. And what's the most next valuable person? Put that in there. Or what is it that you really aren't very good at and you don't like doing? Well, great. Find somebody that's a really key position. Find somebody that loves doing that and they're good at it.
So you talk about bringing on staff to help bridge some of those gaps as you grow. I can imagine for a brand new entrepreneur to struggling, like at some point, you need to hire someone, but the fear of doing that, like the effort and energy involved in hiring someone, but also the expense and knowing that you've got to cover that payroll. At what point would you coach an entrepreneur to take the leap of faith and hire someone?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I'm not sure there's one answer for sure. Right? Some of it has to do with trajectory. A lot of it, this is really very hard to quantify, Mike. And I know you know this, but it's like, where does that person see themselves in 6 months? Like it's a fun story that Tiger Woods, before he ever won a professional golf tournament, he played in college, very good player, played in college, but before he won any professional golf tournaments, Nike awarded him the single biggest endorsement they'd ever given any athlete in the history of Nike. Solely, and as the guy defended, how did you write such a big check for this guy? He never won a damn thing. Like, how did you do this? And the guy said, I just listened to him. Like, this guy said he's going to be the best golfer in the world, and I believe it. Like, he just knows it. He just has it. So there's something to be, that as versus the person that's constantly doubting themselves. It's like, perfect. We all have a journey. I can imagine Tiger doubted himself at some point in time, So you're on a journey, but that can factor into it. You wouldn't want to say jump right in, boom, boom, where you look at the person's like, yeah, but I don't know. They're wishy-washy because one, you're probably not going to attract a really great employee. Like, you really want to hire Michael Jordan. That's what you want. You want people that they get it. They want to go. They want you define to them what success looks like. Man, they are all in, right? And Michael Jordan isn't going to go play for the worst franchise in the league. It's like, they don't get it. I'm not going there. So that's part of it too. Is like the more you can spend time and money on yourself. How do I do that? Well, there's lots of podcasts, that are free. Go to some of those and get great information. Like, just absorb that, get around that. Read books. Another source. There's many, many sources. We look into say, how do I get rid of that self-doubt and get in that mindset of like, no, anything's possible. I can make this happen. And then
you talk about how important it is to invest back in yourself. And I could totally see that as a way to also leverage your time again. If you're investing in yourself, doing better at the kind of work that you're doing, adding services like bundling to help elevate that leverage for yourself, that's fantastic. But there's a challenge there, I've found at least. Mm-hmm. How do you identify what the right things to learn are versus the things that are not worth your time to learn?
Mm. Well, and so you mean from like all learning?
Yeah, just from a learning perspective.
Yeah. Well, for sure, and again, I don't want to sound redundant, but the business is never going to be any bigger or better than as you see it in your mind. So if you have a business and say, so what would be, say you took the dental business. So I think that if you said the average sale of a dental practice, not saying that's what it's worth, but say the average sale of a dental practice in the United States, 2022, is about somewhere between 800 and 900,000. So if you said, so I see myself as owning a practice that's just shy of $1 million in revenue every single year, like that's where I see it. Okay, awesome. And then you're sitting next to a gal who says, oh, that's great, but I see my practice selling at 4.3 million, and I can't imagine a cent less. Well, they're both right, but there's two totally different next steps. How do I get better? How do I do this? So if the guy looked and said 4.3, like that's not possible. It's like, oh yeah, let me show you. Dun, 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 dun. There's 10 people right there that are doing in excess of that. Oh my, well, that's not, well. So anyway, it's not possible. It's not possible for me where my mind is right now, but if somebody could break the 4-minute mile, like, guess what? Boom, boom, boom. After Roger did that, a million other people jumped on board. It's all about, it can be done. Now I can do it too. So that has to be there. So once that's there, whatever level it's at, then for me, it's from the standpoint, just looking into this space is saying, so here's my noble purpose. Here's why this business exists. And what other things can I add that are just organically added in the sense that they fit beautifully with that purpose that have value to the consumer. And you certainly can argue, I'm going to add something and it's going to create value. There are products that have done that, that for instance, Steve Jobs, Apple, some of the products he says, like, the world doesn't know it yet, but they need a place that they can put all their music on one place and just pull it up at once. So he developed something that was like, whoa, this is awesome. But the world wasn't necessarily clamoring for it. He just saw the need and developed the need for it. There's that, but there are also so many things that people just say, I'd love to just make my life better, that the consumers are demanding it. Add something in that totally is congruent with what you're doing. Don't start chasing, the shiny objects over here. It would be kind of nice. Like, I'm a CPA, but I think we'll have a little spa in the back room. It's like, no, dude. Like, no, stay in your niche, unless somehow you can connect those dots and say, like, it's all part of that waiting experience for that big insurance hit on your taxes. You got to get a nice massage to loosen you up for these bad news. Or, well, I'm being funny here, but really make sure it's congruent with that noble purpose of why your business is significant. And if your business went away, you really have to feel this way. My business went away, there'd be a void in the universe in some way because it's gone. That's it.
Make sure you know the purpose, the mission, the values of the organization first, so you know the direction you're heading. And as you mentioned, I've met a lot of billionaires, and they just think differently. They think a lot like Tiger Woods. They have a different perspective on life, which has helped get them where they're going to be. That mindset is everything. If I think back to the original question, one of the areas that at least I would dive into if I were starting out again is sales and marketing. Because if you put more time into learning and mastering that skill set, that has a big impact on the overall growth of your business. But I want to ask you, what do you see is different between the $900,000 dentistry practice and the $4 million one? What are they doing that's different?
Yeah. Well, it's really one of two paths. One is that, for instance, the path that I chose was that I saw myself as able to help. Well, one is that I had the desire to add lots of services that new people were interested in and to provide those services myself. Didn't have to. That was a path that I chose. And so the idea of how do we increase overall revenue, focus on revenue per unit of time. So I'll say dollars per hour. How do we increase dollars per hour? So in the dental field, if I looked at and said, well, I can do this procedure on 10 people, or I can do 10 of the same procedure on one person, which one is a better use of my time? And the second one is a much better use of my time. I can be much quicker, much faster, and much more efficient if I can do 10 of them on one person rather than clean the room, number 2, clean the room, number 3, get them numb, clean the room, number 7. All that it's just a roller coaster. You're just running as fast as you can. Not that that's wrong, but that wasn't for me. I didn't want that put on roller skates and run my life off. One, and again, so you're asking me, so my goal was I wanted to change people's lives. I want to do a very significant amount of stuff for very few people rather than a little tiny bit of stuff for lots of people. Personal choice, totally reflected in noble purpose. And so that idea of how do we do that would be get lots of skills of doing that and then bundle that together. And again, so dentistry is different, but all businesses are basically the same, which is most consumers really would rather be someplace else than your business. Mm-hmm. So from a dental standpoint, it makes sense if somebody came in and said, well, here's all the work that I, the consumer, want to have done. So you mentioned sales. Of course, part of that process, I like to be able to get a really healthy definition of sales. Sales is a win-win, has to be a win-win. And to me, the win-win should be as optimal. Let's look at optimal everything it could possibly be, as opposed to just one small thing. So, and dentistry, it could be like, well, it's not just smile, it's not just bite, it's not just health, it's not just no disease. It's all kinds of things that are associated with that. So what does optimal look like, and how does that tie in with our noble purpose of who we are? And so here's what optimal looks like. So when you're talking to people, every patient in the world would rather be like, well, I'd rather get all that done at once. No disrespect, David, but I'd rather be someplace else than a dentist. Like to me, it'd be like, well, no disrespect, carpenter, contractor guy, but I'd rather be without a house for 2 weeks rather than be without the house for 4 months. The work in the kitchen, the work out here. So there's lots of different things, parallels in different industries where we could apply that to, and then have the capacity to deliver upon that. So the customer, win-win, great. I get all this work done in my house in 2 weeks rather than 4 months. And I, the contractor, in this case, I, the dentist, look at say much more profitable in dollars per hour because I get my old crew there. I do all the work at once. We bring the other crews in the contractor one. For me, it's like one patient, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever that looks like, working that, as opposed to 6 people in 6 hours.
That's great. And the deeper principle I would say here is that David's been there, right? He's giving us the insight that is helping us understand how to grow that kind of business. But wherever you want to go, there's likely someone who's been there before. And something I've used over and over again is to identify those people that they're at where I want to be, and then fight to learn as much as you possibly can from them to replicate that same success.
Yeah.
David, how can our audience get a hold of you or find you if they like to learn more about what you do?
Oh, sure. Well, I'm easy to find. It's an easy to find rock. Probably the easiest place would just be the company website. So the name of the company is Ultimate Success in Dentistry. The website is ultimatesuccess.dentist. And there's another easier one to remember, which is the number 4M40, or any way you want to spell right, it'll come up. It'll take you to the same place just because it's easier for folks to find it. And then you could, the second book I wrote was just published. It's available on Amazon. And that's called Peak Success, an entrepreneurial guide to business prosperity. If you just Peak Success and start typing in, it's the only one that pops up. So it's easy to find there, and contact information such as is also at parts in that book. And that is from a dentist perspective, Mike, of the book. But as the publishers are going through it, they said, so we're thinking about different things in the book and titles, and it seems like this could be applied to any business, not just dentistry. Some of your examples are dentistry, but could be, do you want to limit it just to dentists in particular, or do you want to open that scope up? And so we opened it up in many ways so that anybody could read that and say, oh, okay, I get the idea that this example is in dentistry, but it can easily be applied to cosmetology, CPA, construction, whatever it might be. So those two places, website and the book itself, and easy to find. And I love your idea, that oftentimes I think that as I seek out folks, that are further ahead on the journey, and just, so many talented people out there, it's just an amazing world, that oftentimes those people are like when somebody comes to me and says, hey, so David, can you teach me about this? There's a certain amount of like, it's an honor, right? When somebody asks you that, like, you actually want me to teach you something. That you find these folks, that are ahead, as you mentioned, like ahead in the journey of where you are, they often are very willing to share their information. Like it's like really, I'd love to share it, love to help you out, whatever, So as daunting as it might be, to reach out to somebody that you look at and say, like, that person is amazing, that person's amazing, you may very well find that the vast majority of those people, if you approach them sincerely and say, like, I'd really like to learn from you, that they're like, cool, let's figure it out. I'll help you a little or a lot, but that they're always willing, it seems like.
So true. I've had so many incredible mentors to help me grow and learn throughout my career, but so many of them are open to helping because they feel a little bit of a sense of joy of helping you succeed on your journey. So today we learned about leverage and how to use that to free up your time and actually make more money. David gave us a number of tips and tricks on how to achieve that leverage, but even deeper than all that, identify the people that have been where you want to go, learn from them so that you can start building in the leverage correctly for your own business. David, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, Mike, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and keep up the great work. It's awesome information you're dispensing to your listeners and universe. So kudos to you, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
Thank you.